All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Daisy Osam. I am director of RW Health Tech. Some of you guys know resilient wellness is the same thing. RW means resilient wellness. Nothing has really changed. Still doing the same work. I just say health tech because now I'm more in the act of bringing down certain technologies and systems that are going to help us with our health. Before we were more direct service, hands-on, organizing, working with providers that then improve their skill set to then improve public health. So this is more of a public health message versus what I usually have on my channel. It's okay. I just wanted to kind of go ahead and provide an overview of what is going to be happening in the near future in regards to what we call cyborgia irreclancla and the exposure of that, and getting people, situated in a new way of being after being impacted by chemical warfare and sex warfare, which is what this really is about. Just wanted to give a short literature review, okay, and then legal review for those of you guys who are actively like building cases and trying to help yourself so that you have the tools that you need to succeed, thrive, and survive in this specific dimension that is out of control, delusional. And if you think for a second that I'm going to play with you, so I'm a real scientist. I've been doing this work for like several years. Let me see what this is. I did want to say first and foremost, you guys, that a lot of this work I did a long time ago. So you guys don't know on my website, I have like several databases, like where you guys can go and get finance and policy compliance as practitioners, right? You can get a bunch of stuff. People have tried to sell my work, all kinds of stuff. This actually doesn't work at all because it's for holistic health. I was the first one to do it because it's my type of work anyways. So now, it's like a large exposure of why I was stalked in the past and my work was stolen and plagiarized while they were talking out of their ass, swallowing up from the toilet, right? After 2 or 3 visits, and then regurgitating that in conversation with other people on my name, but only opening up a portal to expose it. That's what they had at the deepest level of their molecular layer, right? So sometimes when you're seeing these different processes, they're alchemical versus like social, right? And because of that, this is now what's giving license to all of this getting ordained in court. Because look what you did with Daisy, though. But yeah, you're talking about her, but she made Dean's List twice, right? In college, in my public health program, I did. And that's one of the things that they try to go and edit out of my transcripts, and it exposed something sinister in regards to 2 officers getting arrested. It was dozens of for trying to edit the state school system to fudge their diplomas, right? But how it started was they tried to edit my transcripts because they knew that we would one day get here, right? We're in Irreclancla cyborgia is being exposed so deeply on a medical level because the high priestess did it. But it took you doing something very ignorant several times over to prove that something was absolutely true. I don't need to hear the science. Just her talking is like magical. I like that more. Thank you, right? So now what's happening here is you guys now have seen my work. I do a whole bunch of stuff. So let's say, for instance, like, you're a practitioner and like, oh, I want to see if these drugs that I'm giving or these herbs I'm, recommending, do they have interactions? And if so, what do they impact? Okay, what speech does that create? Whoa, right? You need a specific type of ear, AKA a spiritual anatomy to do that, which they're trying to rip out of my body or say like, oh, we use that as an anchor to build this over here because they're racist and disgusting and started several historical atrocities like the caste system in India or slavery. They don't get access to that. See, God is really smart. I'm happy that I can get to like share some of her smarts, indulge in sharing her smarts, right? But it's not mine. Do you see? And then you have yours, and who knows? I want to enjoy and indulge in it. Oh, look, this is Cher. We brought that down. Now we all have cake, right? So this is how we now come to an understanding of how serious what happened to me is, but it's going to give license to a lot of other people getting healing in another category. See, I never thought I was going to be the one to help a bunch of fae become fae again or go back to their original state, which that conversation doesn't happen on planet Earth for a reason. So you need to tap in and then go down, eat deep. No, you wake up at 8 in the morning and they're doing meetings and meditating on what that means. Once you understand, you won't talk about it. A lot of the Browns, they don't even know, they don't want to know. And that's actually funny, you see? And that's why when you mind your own business, there's a world over here that we can explore. I don't have access to that. But I can visit because you're my friend, right? Only if the Akasha allows though. Okay, right? And this is how when we have some of our friends that are afraid they get to go to Zorzai for parties, same thing. Only with understanding brings like more of like a awareness and an enjoyment of let me do this because that's the proper way. and then I get this. It becomes an enjoyable thing. Right? So now let's go into this outline that I'm going to give you guys, right? And I think that what's in right, synchronistic, something absolutely is in this. And I think what like we need to pay more attention to is all that has gone on in the chemical war to stop this from coming out versus what I'm saying. Because the proof is already in the pudding. Again, call me one. I go and I give these out in my neighborhood and all across LA. So okay, let's get started. The protocol ramifications of incest. If this was any longer than 20 pages, I'd sell it. It's only going to be 9. Really, honestly, like they're shorter. Sometimes, like work is like that. It doesn't need to be long, complex. The shorter, the better. That's how you get into the portal function to understand it, right? So now, right now, we see what's been going on and why people are chasing after my uterus. But in the process of doing that, you open up something up about somebody else's uterus. Like, hey, we're sisters here, right? Not like that, you know. It's okay, right? You know, like oh, sister, father, mother, sister, that type of thing. So anyway, so you know, like so, anyways, um, just want to give you guys a public health statement, okay? And I'm just going to read this here, and this is just a testament to like the purpose of this work because it's getting put everywhere. And I want people to know that it's okay to talk about these things. It's so normal that little children are looking up like, what's Pornhub? Oh, I won't go on this because we have mates later. Yeah, that's true. Completely unaroused niggas. Oh, I remember I actually used to mess with her. Anyways, what's prolapse? Wow, that's actually true. And things like that are happening because now like people are comfortable talking about these things. So imagine like, you know, an anomaly like that. I just want to talk about that. It was so sorry, it was an enigma. Right. Sorry, wrong math function. Think of sin versus tan, anomaly versus enigma. So I say that to say we're in this place and we're discussing this. So many like comical things have happened like around this that it's now like normal. And as a public health practitioner, don't be don't oh, don't take it personal, right? We want to take it personal, like the work. Don't take it personal, like I'm just giving you the information. It's true. It's not true because I made it true. It's true because it's something happened several times over. And then like now it's true. So I have to put it down in a way that continues to prove it's true. Right. So you're not the problem here. You're not the one to blame. Don't shoot the messenger, right? That type of thing, right? Like literally. You are going to go ahead and see that it's not like a it's not something you should absorb the negativity that comes with exposing or like the shock. Because some people may even walk away from you like, oh, because I'm not ready to just address that you're real. Because then that's real, right? So in that whole thing, it's all about just coming to the realization that you're just here to put things down on the table and push them forward. Whether or not they believe it's not your business, right? That's what people say when they're plagiarizing my work, like trying requirements to go out and do that, which is what this has now come to. So let's keep going. So I'm going to give the public health statement, right? Because this is more about like education and recovery versus, you know, chaos and, you know, being ratchet. But I like professional messy. And it's like funny when people start shit and like I get like an akasha for that. I like messy science. Ooh, SNL has nothing on this. Yeah. I want like messy spiritual science. Like in what federation? See, that's why they're in Dua. You need to go all the way to the last one. Was it called Daisy Gruckerbus? You're going there, yeah. Oh, you have to get out of my office. What is that place called, Queen? Oh, it's called Nezerlat, like past Dua. Yeah, you're going to that place because it sounds like Dua is just, I don't know. It's not on the planet, right? That's just the that's the greatest thing about that. So now we've gone to a place in public health where now we can like move past like the like restrictions placed there by white women who were involved in creating this, right? And now we can get into like what public health really is about, like which is enforcement of like rule and balance and enjoyment, right? So public health is like a fun thing in space too, like in other places where we have public health models that can completely destroy this planet, like the Iroquois. Public health is a fun thing. Like you get together, you're doing public health working, you can do all kinds of stuff, and then you get all this different akasha. You can even try these tools on your mate. Like all kinds of stuff goes on, right? Like for instance, the Iroquois they have these like formulations of air, right? And like haha, it's called the anaha. So that goes around with a specific chemical sequence and spirals for a specific like phytochemical that cleans out like nonsense or stops smoke. So that same type of like air cloud moves all around and cleans things up. You can use that same one to like play with your mate. Let's flow on this. You see, it's like it's a fun thing, like, oh, look at now, tool cleaning up. Hey, didn't know you was in the bedroom. Right? Like, oh, yeah, like it's so funny. So think of this like you're gonna get to that point even though this is like a hard, treacherous road for you to even fathom this, you'll one day get that to that point and be like, oh, remember when we like learned about that and it was like the worst thing? And I look at this, it's like the funniest thing, right? Oh, that's so funny. How you went on X and XS, X, you're like 8 years old, but I just had to see if it's true, mom. I saw something in your room. Am I going to foster care? Right? Like it just becomes like comical, right? And it just that's why public health is like cool. Like you get to step out of yourself and be like, oh, as a practitioner, like, oh, we're talking about bacteria and stuff like that. Like, do you know that's in your meat? Right? At the same time, like, oh, like I would never eat hamburgers again. Like it's like funny, comical, right? When you're on the other end and you're in a position for specific like research or enforcement or just wonder, right? So I say all that to say there's not about drama, and that's my statement here. So let's keep on going. So I'm just going to give you guys the bare outline. I haven't finished this yet, but I know people are using this week. And for public health practitioners, I am available, right? Um, it's 333. I mean, I wouldn't be a woo spiritual lady if I didn't like mention that, right? So here we go. So I'm just gonna give it like the menu outline. And I'm so sorry if you guys may hear like background noise. It's like a white man like screaming in my ear because he got caught molesting people's kids and making like several like clones of himself, wasting taxpayer dollars so he can go out and rape people and spread his like his semen in children. Like the younger they are, the better. I have the brother's DNA here and the sister's DNA. Switch them at birth and do this and that, which is a result of this. Public health statement. How to use this information is also something that's in here. Okay, short history on the white legacy of incest, right? And then what is abortia, right? We're going to talk about that. Incest as chemical warfare and DNA trisomies, okay? And then case studies where we're going to look into 3 diseases. And we're also going to be looking into like, with this, I'm going to be showing you diagrams and all that stuff like I had in my trisomy work, which people are trying to get like money for, even though they have no idea what I'm talking about. Great. It's the first time that they've ever seen an organized like this. So anyways, there's going to be models, of course, 2-strand versus 4-strand. It'll just be like this. You guys can use this right now, currently as it is, right? So there's going to be some of this technology in here as well related specifically to this issue. And some of the mandatory diseases. And with the mandatory diseases, I would actually call them like junction diseases, right? Meaning that a junction disease is one wherein incest had to be there before the disease was created in the body. Like certain types of HIV are incest junctions, meaning that you had to have been involved with somebody that was playing with your Borgia. No, it doesn't mean just because you were molested. Nah, just because you may have been involved. No, it's like you slept with somebody that had that, and that is a precursor for getting that. Now, let's say you're like a Hanifi, like Ebony Freelix or aka Ebony Beckwith, the supposed COO of Salesforce, who has HIV and several other diseases, right? You can get involved with this because she does it willingly, right? And then you can eat something and then get a certain type of HIV, right? So that still does exist. But for certain people, like I wasn't involved willingly. My family was involved in this. I later ran away as a child. Thank you for helping me. You have to also understand that, oh, okay, I didn't know because that happened to me as a child. Later down the road, a relationship activated that, right? Or later down the road, I actually ate something and got foodborne HIV, which is there are 6 types of HIV on the planet. Because of what's happening that I'm going to explain later, there are now 2 new categories, right? So HIV 1 through 2 is foodborne, and then 3 through 6 is through sex and injection chemical warfare. Chemical warfare exists on all levels because you can inject people with either one. Okay, great. So those are some things I'm going to talk about too. Oh, junction diseases. This is a new thing, right? Like you had to have this before that, but it's what the junction is. Incest is one. White supremacy is one. Foolishness in the spiritual reality, which is a trisomy, is one. God, that's why you're sick. Thank you. So now let's keep moving, right? So my case studies on here: Kuru, Jacob Creutzfeldt disease, aka mad cow disease, and another disease that people didn't know was related to incest. Which it's when you look at it, you're like, oh, having small hands and a big head. That's not like some type of like birth defect. It's like because you're practicing incest. It's a specific way in which they come out. I wouldn't call it diseases. It will be like demarcations. So there's diseases and demarcations that we're going to go through, right? Because some of you guys had children with these people. Why didn't you tell me that? This ruined my life. I'm in and out of the hospital with my child. I had no idea that you were willingly having sex with your mom, willingly having sex with your dad, and you were coming home and sleeping with me. And then I went and had a child. And you know, I think it was going to have a problem. And then now you're cheating on me with my cousin. And then because it was by design. Right? Because that's what this breeds. That's the bigger problem, right? And that's what we're going to be talking about, the public health aspects, which is the social, which is another case study, the social ramifications of this, which is what is going to come up in the public health impacts. So instead of that, right, the case study, because people will know like there's different levels of drama that can occur, right? Like why sit there and try to then categorize all of them? Let me just put them in a few categories. And then from there, you can only imagine what has happened. There you go. There we go. And now that's like one thing, like as a public health practitioner, you don't want to put so much on the table that, whoa, this can go anywhere. You want to like give concrete buckets for people to go in like, wow, I got like straight to the end of the rabbit hole, right? And then you realize it's not a hole, it's a portal. And that's actually just to my living room. And how dare you do that? Right? so hi Peter. Right? Yeah, well, that's Peter. He's only 12. His ears. Yeah, like literally, we have to wipe his memory so many times. He said, are you doing something? Yeah, like yeah, Peter, like he put his ears back and like it's like he's getting ready to stomp his feet. Like he doesn't understand what's going on. Yeah, Peter, oh, this is not really his image, but he was like, oh, look, he told his mom, look, mom, I'm doing community service. Kakasha, yeah, hey, baby. So we're gonna have case study 2 with HIV and gonorrhea, right? And there's medical art that I'm pulling on for this that I wanted to show you that I thought was so interesting. It's important. And I do have an account for being very ignorant on the internet, but like when we say ignorant, you guys say we say ignorant, right? Like, oh, but there's 2 types of ignorant. Like, oh, you're going really far. Look at how long this paper is. You're ignorant. Like, oh, you went bad on him. You called the police. Oh, that's ignorant. You thought that it was all good. That type of also Southern. And I'm a public health practitioner, so I have to like code switch. And that means like, oh, I was just talking about this and look, it's right here in a picture. So here we're going to talk about like antibacterial resistance case studies. And here we show that antibacterial resistance, all these new strains of different diseases are coming from the fact that women and men are practicing incest with their families knowingly, and they're going out and dumping it into the bodies of people. Some people are actually even then getting injected, right? There's groups of women that they hire in the Russian community to go ahead and get their lips plumped, get their bodies done. Of course, they look like mutants, but I mean, really, when you're playing with people's umbilical cord and period blood magic and a bunch of other things in ESCOT, really skies is the limit, right? So, and that means like how far the glamour can go and the delusion. So they get on SSI and things like that for free by the government, like 1,800 to 2,000 a month, right? To go out and then burn these men, and they come from like nothing poverty. That's the whole Mueller report. There's like a few pages missing in between, and that's really like it. It's just literally 1 page, and I just turned it into like 10 pages in a book. Okay, so now here we have this. This is what an actual like gonorrhea cell looks like. So if you want to see a gonorrhea cell that is like an indicative, like, oh, their families have practiced incest, look at how different these 2 are, right? This is an indicative, like, okay, this is just gonorrhea. This is gonorrhea 2, right? Superpathogen is this one, gonorrhea 3. And between these 3, I'm going to show you where incest then manifests. So when you see this, right, with the Neisseria, this is basically saying like, I'm going to then go into the lining of your cellular walls, and then I'm going to implant myself. I have a debilitated intelligence on both sides, but they are different, right? You will one day be able to get 2 different diseases from one side, but on the other side, I can be eliminated completely. It is just for a growth factor that is self-sustaining, right? This is what we call in yokai domo komo. Right. So it's so funny that I'm like watching this. I'm like, oh, I know her family. So, anyways, look, when it starts to get more bifurcated, that's saying that there was a shared relation in the sexual interaction. The mother and father made it, and they had a child, and then the father then mated with the child, or the mother mated with the child, while the child is still mating a sibling or a cousin or a uncle relative who's not synonymous to the father, right? But it's just another extension in that line of extended family, right? So then they say, oh, he's like my second, third cousin. It's not that bad, but still. And that's when those types of like DNA interactions, when we're talking about your clinical cyborgia, only start to happen when people realize that the feds are on them. And it only started about 40 years ago. So anyways, you're not going to find too many of those. So anyways, they're saying that we had a relation, the father was burnt, and then the father then went to the child and burnt the child. They were both incubating at the same time, meaning inside of me is this bifurcation, and inside of me is this bifurcation. I can't be destroyed, you can't be destroyed. Only between us is then a battle of who has to destroy the environment around so I can then usurp you. Right? So this is like where you start to get into like, oh, why doesn't this drug work? Oh, it's resistant. Oh, but what medium is it resistant to? Is it heat? Is it chemical? Is it like different like laws of like thermal, right? Heat would be one, but freezing would be another one. And then going back and forth in the extreme of intelligences. And then how does it then grow? Because there is then an intelligence added to the chemical server, which we use to survive, which is incest that breeds us. And then we start to become more of a super pathogen. You need a dimethyl or trimethyl to handle this, right? And this is where we get into antibiotic resistance because we don't have those on the planet. And we could, but they're using it all on like chemicals that they're putting like in different like machines near people's houses so they can like tie technology to their ear. So politicians, like your assembly member Matt Haney, could talk about how he's a politician and how dare I not listen to him? How dare I? Yeah, I know you were interested too. You're acting like this and that. And how dare I not be thinking about him? And or what are you doing? Are you having sex and all that type of stuff? And how do I make sure that this magic works on her? I paid a lot for this magic to bind myself to her vagina and her clitoris. And that's where all the chemicals are. So as a public health practitioner, sometimes when you step out, you step in and then you bring your experience forward. And that's also proof and evidence in action, right? So now, like think about like the ecological model, right? I'll actually say this. Look at the ecological model. All realms of that ecological model, like they intersect with each other. So it wouldn't be like circles, like tiered. It would be like more of a spiral going back and forth, right? So I will say the ecological model has like a few like realms that it can like come out of. Does that make some sense? Okay, cool. So, and as a public health practitioner, this is where we're talking about like mind expansion, where we start to think of like, I never even thought about that, like how you put like a whole like dictionary of demons to a bacteria. And now we expose whose family started this, right? So, and that's how they used to do it back in the day. And this is where like we bring back into the indigenous perspective and standpoint to public health and they make it fun. And this is where we get like things like, oh, okay, my little 7-year-old saw that, but it was kind of funny at the end, or oh, I didn't know you can do that. What else can you do? Right? I don't know, right? Like public health is really fun. That's why I liked it so fast. That's why I went into this field. So now you see, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna break that down a little bit more, right? And I want cross sections because there's like ways in which this looks inside, and you'll see specific just like formulations, right? Like you'll see stuff like this, but you'll see receptors for portal functions from other universal sets. Like, oh, it has to have that because you won't be able to use this plant or that plant to bring it down to this plane with the chemical server because they use plants as the chemical server because plants with portal functions. So some of you guys have like crazy like house plants and you're like, I didn't know you were cursing me and talking to me crazy like that. I saw you in my dream. I had no idea. You just should have told me to take you away from the radio. Like that, right? And this is where we start to get into even more fun in public health and our friends and allies, which are the animals, the plants, our environment, and our community, right? So let's keep on going. So stuff like that. And then we get into another realm of like, oh, okay, well, how dangerous is this? So let's keep on going. Right? So we'll talk about that medical art. I'm going to show some stuff with prion folding and show you a few things with that. And yeah, okay, that's good. And frameworks and solutions, right? Because in public health, again, like why tell you about the problem? I already have the solution. But I'm so funny and so Virgo that the solution, which is like me, I'm not going to tell you that, right? Was already here. And then I help you fix the problem. I only have to explain it in like my version. It's not saying that your version was wrong, but I just have to tell you like how I saw it, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's like nonviolent communication. Like, there's ways to handle things, right? So when you actually apply the frameworks and tools that you learn in school to your life, you become a great person and you get more. And this is why we have like things like plagiarism and like delusional females with like foreheads that say I can never divinate, and weird like Asian females like waking me up in the middle of the night, like, hey, I have a meeting tomorrow. Like you should be working. Like, okay, maybe she wakes up, I can like see a few pages of her work. And that's where you get like ignorant stuff like that, right? That like dismantles public health, but like allows us like a clear slate to rebuild it completely, wherein none of that can ever exist ever again. Isn't that so cool? I feel like that's where we should be like working to. And that's just a trans-theoretical model. Like, it's the awareness that you have a problem, then contemplating how you're going to fix it, and then like assessing your options and like putting the foot forward, right? To like go ahead and heal that. Like, oh, maybe calling a lawyer, or like, let me call her in for a presentation, or like, how many other like slides do you have of this? Are you crazy? Right? Or like how many other presentations? I have about 4 more, right? Because I still have to talk about physiques, which are chemical demons that look like different force of physics bodies that people then try to build with incest. Like you see something like this would be considered a physique. They move around in different spaces, but this brings complete harmony and balance. It's a Reiki sigil, aka Rakanrari, right? The same way that I can bring this down and it's like of God is the same way somebody can like have sex with their parents, know that they're anchored to a force like that as well, a body, and destroy your life and your mental health, right? So we still have to talk about that. There's so much more. And then that's where we get in trans-theoretical model, like, oh, I'm now fixing the issue, and then maintenance, where I know that this won't like be as bad as it was in the beginning. I have a solution. That completely ends. It collapses into itself, turns into a portal, goes back to their original substance that the portals created by logs in the Akasha. It was once here. Okay, just so we know that this is never going to happen again, right? And then it completely dissolves itself and it's done. So then what ends up happening is there's now more space for us to move forward because that's done. And that's what it should be. So we're not leaving like open loops and holes everywhere, which is what people in public health want because they created this, right? We want closed doors, loops, and circles. And I want to make sure that there's an end to that string and that there's no conduit for it to get to another one, right? And that's just like computer science, because you want to also think of yourself as like a developer in public health, right? Because a lot of you guys are going to be getting on the computer and finding out why your coworkers are trying to hide me, because you're going to find out about this. So now let's talk about like the public health impacts and the policy recommendations and health remedies, right? So the biggest thing is like, what are the public health impacts of this practice itself? But it's not just the impacts; it's the social phenomena, which I feel like that's one of the things, and that's data trends as evidence where we come in. Right. So because of all this going on and the debilitation of the body and the mental health, it's spurred, of course, several things that we clearly see happening in Russia, right in front of us in Ukraine, and why no one really responded to their war. It's unfortunate. But then, right, because there's people that were not involved that didn't know that got involved. And there's people who are just air clunkla mentally, right? But it's so bad that you might as well just be all the way. And that's okay. Sometimes in public health, like we need to have like end of life or like a model for no solution. What if there is no solution for our client? And that's okay. What if there's someone else, right? And that's okay. And that's just called Sweslening, death statistics, right? So then what ends up happening is we start to get like a creation of certain like phenomena because of what is going on with this right here with incest being so rampant that millions of Black and brown women have gone missing because these women actually don't have uteruses, and they then try to go out and mix with different gene pools and they have to feign normalcy. So then this is where we also get children switched at birth because oops, our bloodline's debilitated. And yeah, that's my uncle, but I want to go play with them in their community, right? So transplants, right? Or mass incarceration, just put all the men in jail. So then the woman can't have, because remember, we're supposed to be sleeping with them to do this with our bloodline, and then no hyperdimensional or no indigenous, right? Or then chronic illness epidemics, like you were doing that and I lost my mind. Like you were doing that the whole time because you knew I had a high position in public health. So you can play with my credentials. Oh, right. And then also the curation of 4 current illnesses that people don't know where they're coming from, but they're around. Right. And then this is where we get back to this that I kind of like, left off of because I had to explain these other 3. And yet again, organization is always important as a health educator. So now, oh, this can get me a job anywhere. I know that. By the way, I was trained by the best. I went to SF State. Go crocodiles, but it says it's a gator. Sobeka, Kemet. So then children getting switched at birth. Why? Because oh, our DNA is like this and this and that, and we are so debilitated that now people are realizing that oh, all this DNA testing and UCSF and this UCSF this and research that is only for a specific type of people. So when our kids get sick or leukemia, which they rarely do because we're immigrants and there's something called like a predisposition that you guys kind of exposed already in a natural causes, like we're healthier when we come here, right? And this is because of living around white supremacy and a food system tainted by human meat and moldy with suicide magic, that little kids are now getting crazy leukemias because of black mustard seed being mixed with black sesame and green cardamom. And now we see, oh, we just see that these institutions are for a few specific people, you're clunkless, but you work for all these institutions too. So you know how to, oh, okay, so it's just a roundabout circle. So just take your money out of it. But, and then that's in public health where like you do certain things like here, like prevention, like primary prevention, right? So that you don't have to get into tertiary. Like when you do it in the primary, then a portal opens at tertiary and even halfway at secondary and just pulls the whole problem, right, into itself. And then it then pulls itself into a portal function and moves in both ways. And the force of physics running all that chaos and that phenomena dissipates. Think of a turnip. When you see a turnip and the circles around the turnip, they're not going the same way as the circles in the bottom. It means I've completely like contained something. And that's when you really use turnips for like stomach issues, like if you've eaten something nonsensical like Xiong, etc. Yeah? Radishes, all that too. Aha. So that's like public health from the era. Like they're so they can actually turnips. And I love it when you get the tacos and then you have the jalapenos, the pickled carrots. Yeah. And then with the radishes, like that's like the best when you're drunk. That's actually a psychedelic. And then we like more, again, you see the indigenous standpoint coming right back. And that's why I love public health. And I miss you guys too. So now what's going to end up happening is we have to switch children at birth and like make it like this like hush hush funny thing like where we get together and target people and like she only has a child because of this. Oh, don't even worry about that. Only because, right? So they want to do this long-term thing of like nonsense, like, oh, we can build this and build that and be spiritual. Because I didn't know about the dua or constantly having to like go into 4D biocloning, which is also another byproduct of this, which is wasting taxpayer dollars. Yeah, which I have some information on. So this is not going to take long. Biochemistry, right? Where all this comes in, like I already did this, like skull shape, demarcations, interception of consciousness, which is a demarcation and also like a map of behavior and a chemical sequence, which is why you get people like Matt Haney and his sister who have sex me like that with their father because they've had threesomes and all kinds of stuff. And the mother's bitter and using virtual reality to contact me because she doesn't get in on the good stuff. So that's where you guys were always going. Why you always like your dad more? And I can only say that because I was exposed to them so crazily and everyone saw what happened. Like, oh, Daisy, you're doing a longitudinal study. Exactly. But the funny thing is, it was also investigative, right? Right. And it was double blind because I didn't know I was going to even have to do that while I had no money. So then it was really, really double blind because how could she have set that up if she had no money? God is so good and scientific. I mean, I love public health, so much so that I have an akasha for it. There's a lot of love here, right? So, anyways, like skin cells, of course, right? Which is why they're two different colors. That's not a 10. Thank you. Right? Two different colors, right? Eye color and all kinds of things, right? Mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm. Who's no longer at the California Endowment, their CIO, who's at Virginia Tech, though, still trying to smack. That's okay, still getting clones, still getting smacked, right? The CEO of Sutter Health is missing from this. Well, that's the dean of public health at George Washington University. And Wilbur and Armstrong, Coinbase, David Merrick, supposed lawyer in 3 states and 4 licenses in each one. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And some other man that works at USC. Mm-hmm. Larkin Street CFO, Sheila Cole, Liza. Okay. Right. Right. And then that happens because, oh, okay. Right. But why should, yeah. Yeah. Of course. Even how people behave in France and how they smell, and then their diet on top of that. They don't; those ones they don't really live long. You noticed? So, anyways, right. So data is, and one of the things is like I would say, we need to also know that public health grows when we allow people to grow. She wasn't new. She had evidence in her experience then trumped all of your education and academics, but it's you're mad because you put her through the experience, right? And this is where we get into like a double blind study, but also your personal experience as why you came into public health in the first place, right? And that's also a type of evidence. And don't ever forget that. Use that. That can always come back up like, oh, now I remember why this happened to me because you guys did A, B, C, and D, right? Right? While singing Pamela one, Pamela Mela one, right? I remember this from this like house party that I went to or this family party. And I saw the interaction, like, you know what? That's why I want to go into social work. Or you know what? That's why I want to go into food service so people don't get chiong in the office, you know, or they get healthy meats. And so we can actually phase this system out completely, right? Which is another like Swazwane. And that's what public health should be about, like phasing out certain systems. We don't need this. We have this. So if you're really a public health practitioner, you're going to be focusing on that right now. Oh, so conclusion, there's an end. Yeah, there's an end. You know, like I'm a Virgo, but there's an end, right? Because I also have a Leo placement. There's an end. And that Leo placement, she's really good friends with my Aquarius placement. That's an end. So now, right? Wow, there's a lot of love here, right? That's a lot of love right there. That those astrological placements, and this is where, and in public health, we start to activate our tools and our gifts, right? So we can heal ourselves and heal our community, right? So this is public health in action, you guys. I'm really excited about this. So I'm gonna go ahead and let me go finish this up. I'm gonna go ahead and get this to you. If it's longer than 15 pages, I'm sorry, I have to sell it for 10 because we are about to get some money. And I have your email. Well, meanwhile, right? Because they want me on the street like a bum, so you never know, right? Yeah. I love. I mean, yeah. Here's the red envelope. Yeah. I'm Asian too. It's not racist. You know, Asian people are like, yeah. You're like, did you just put this in my food? Oh, yeah. Love, happy. Yeah. Did you just break my nose? Oh. Is that clean? Did you just put that in something? Oh, yeah, no, love. Hey, you know, public health too. I'm Asian too, so it's like a joke, like love. Don't listen to that. It's just love. Yeah. So, anyways, you guys, have a good day. I hope you enjoy.